You must accept the realities, and this is one thing that I'll always remind you. Look at the trend of political formations from 1991. What is happening right now is consistent with that trend. Okay. And therefore, at the end of every season, at the end of every 5 year, people come together, interest changes. Interest changes because a coalition might have been formed just for that particular 5-year period. All right.
And Kazutu, when you look at all these conversations, because I mean, like he says, they're not new. Every election cycle, you'll see people coming together to discuss what their interests are. Are they informed by the clamor for power, or do you see a genuine resolve to look for solutions to the challenges that Kenya faces?
I think that's the problem that we actually face, and the reason why they disintegrate is because they are coming together of people who want to govern, and you cannot govern without power. Yeah, so we cannot remove power from. No one can ever say to someone that this one is power hungry. As long as you are running for a seat, you are running for power, because that's the only way you can govern. You cannot govern without power. But I think Kenyan politics needs to. We've been independent for more than 50 years. Needs to start maturing to a point where our political formations are ideological. We form coalitions, or we form briefcase parties, as Dr. has said, for one specific purposes. How do we get power? And once we get power, you find, okay, these guys had actually not planned what happens when they actually get the power. Yeah, the getting power becomes the end in itself. Yeah, now we are in power, but what do you want to do with that power? How do you want to actually govern? And I think that is something that has been missing in the political formations that we have in the country. So if we are going to grow to the point where you want us to have 2 major parties, if you even go to the UK and ask, what does the Labour Party stand for? You will know. So someone is voting for what the Labour Party stands for, and not actually the person who's leading the Labour Party, what the Conservatives or what the Tories, or when you go to the US, what the Republicans, what the Conservative. When you go to Germany, the Christian Party, the Socialist, and they have something that they stand for ideologically, that, once this party comes into power, this is going to be the policy direction they're going to take. The problem we have in Kenya is a party comes to power, you have to wait and hear, okay, so what is the policy direction these guys are going to take? I'll give an example of Jubilee. If I am to ask anyone, what was Jubilee's policy direction for the first 5 years? I don't think anyone can give you that answer. Come second term, at least we have the big 4, which, whether it has been executed, implemented or not, at least there's a big 4. So we know that any policy, even when the president goes out of the country, you can even see that he's trying to get resources for the big 4. But the first term for Jubilee, ask anyone, I'm sure, even people who are in Jubilee, what was the policy direction for the first 4? First 5 years of Jubilee, because it was a coalition for getting power, but when they got power, it was those ones, okay, now we have power, what next? What do we need to do? Then they start thinking of what to do. And we will make a blunder again this year if we vote for the coalition, just for the sake of voting for the coalition, who actually do not have an ideological stand, which we can say, if Oka comes into power, most probably this is the direction they are going to be taking, policy consistency. And just still on that same point on policy consistency, we also need to move to a point where certain economic policies are institutionalized. And what do I mean by that? That they are not affected by who is in power. I'll give you an example. In the US, there is what they call mandatory spending, or entitlement spending. Whether it's Biden, whether it's Trump, whether it's Obama who's in power, there are certain percentages of the budget they cannot touch, they cannot reduce, they cannot cut. My fear is that Uhuru and Jubilee might be getting out of the scene. What happens to Big 4? What happens to the investments that we've done in Big 4? If they are going to be swept under the carpet, but the new guy who comes and says, I did not believe in this Big 4, I don't believe in universal housing and all this, all the investments that have gone so far into that become wasted investment, and they start something new. Yeah, God forbid they don't win for a second term. That is swept again away, then they also start something new. So we need to move away from politics of just forming coalitions for the sake of getting power as an end. But power should be gotten as a means And the end then is what needs to be discussed.
All right, and that's interesting, because we are at a time that we're still running the Vision 2030, so one would expect that regimes would hand over to each other on what follows next. But I want us to transition to the conversation about the economy through politics and listen to some voices of some leaders from the UDA side of politics and what they think is the solution to Kenya's economy.
Ukijaliwa, unaporushiwa matope, wanapokutusi, wewe ujue kweli unafanya kazi ya Mungu katika kazi hii ya kubeba watu wako na wheelbarrow, kuwatoa umaskinini uwalete kwenye maisha ya hadhi.
Sisi wote tuungane kama mahasla, tuongee mambo ya uchumi wetu.
Wakati mnasikia tunasema bottom up, bottom up iko katika Biblia. Mnanielewa? Nataka uende usome Zaburi. Katika Zaburi inasema Mungu aliye mbinguni atamtoa mtu mnyonge mavumbini, na Mungu atamfanya mtu fukara na maskini waketi meza moja na wafalme.
All right, of course, Psalms 113 verse 7 to 8, he raises the poor from the dust and lifts the needy from the ash heap. He sits them with the princes of his people. I don't know whether that is a true interpretation, that should mean bottom up. You'll tell me what you think. But Senator, I don't know why I keep calling you Senator, Dr. Kenan. So now, as the Jubilee Party is working with on a coalition with the others, and the programs that it's been able to run the past 8 or 9 years, what then is the plan to ensure that this, whatever programs they've been running are secured, and how does that sit with what is going on, bottom-up approach at the UDA side?
First, I think I'm a bit taken aback because if Adam Smith was alive today, and we put aside all the principles that he crafted, and reflect on what is being pronounced right now in the name of bottom-up approach, I'm sure he'll be the saddest man. An economic model is a simplified description of an economic reality. It's not just something that you can just wake up one day, and this must be informed by the non-economic models, whether it's empirical, whether it is scientific. And of course, right now, because of the COVID crisis, we have a new model called the virtual economic model, because of the realities of today that people can't meet physically. So I have looked at what is being described. I have reflected on it from using every basic non-economic facts, and I'm unable actually to place it anywhere. Because on the face of it, they purport to assist the common wananchi. The common wananchi can be assisted through wealth creation. Wealth creation can either be national, can either be international, can either be individual, or can be social, like in the communist world. So where does this narrative fit? This narrative is best described as tokenism and handouts oriented. And I want to alert the Kenyan youth that this is not an avenue to seek or to cure underemployment, to cure unemployment. This is an avenue for dependency. This is an avenue to mesmerize. This is an avenue to lead them into a cycle of poverty and dependence. And this is something that actually they should shun, because I'm sure my friend here, who is an expert in this, will allude to this. Kenya is not a socialist state. Kenya is not a socialist state. And there is no country today that I can describe as actually as a socialist state. Cuba, Russia, the old Soviet Union, China have all moved from that and accepted pragmatic economic models that is capitalist oriented. Allow people to create wealth, allow state to be a neutral arbiter in the creation of wealth. So right now what is being purported actually is to confuse the youth in the name of creating apathy, in the name of inciting the youth, in the name, because there are challenges right now because of COVID. It's a reality that there is unemployment. There's a reality that there's scarcity of food. There's a reality right now that there's a lot of youth who are also unemployed. It's because of this that I think somebody has coined this just to stir up some sort of resentment and allow the youth now to take advantage of this and maybe to cause even a political revolution. But what we are forgetting is that Jubilee as a party, as a governing party, has had policies, has policies, will continue to have policies even whatever formation that we join. And these policies are informed by the non-economic realities. If you look at the Big Four agenda, the Big Four agenda actually was not coined out of the blues. They are coined as a result of, the realities, the economic realities. The economic realities, if we are talking about food security is not a concept for a particular individual. Even if there will be another president, food security will always be something that any state or any group will require. The issue of universal health care is not something that are peculiar to a particular group. So even if President Uhuru retires and when he retires, these are things that will be part of the Kenyan community. And this is something that any modern state actually will require. The issue of manufacturing. Again, if you want to empower your people, you must look at the factors of production. Land, labor, investment, and all this. All this, again, will be informed by the good economic models that we apply. What informs the economic model? The economic model actually is a realistic description of the unique economic status of that particular community. That is why today, where I come from, the main economy is based on livestock rearing. Here, where in Kiambu, it's tea farming or coffee farming. So the model that will be applied in Kiambu will be different from the model that will be applied in Wajir because of the realities. And you must come up with policies that are tailor-made for that particular economic model. And I think this is why I'm confused. I'm unable to place it anywhere in the non-economic models. And this is why I'm saying, if Adam Smith was alive today, I'm sure he'll be the first one to shun and shame those who are propagating in this modern day world. Propagating for that particular model, it's a shame. But finally, on this particular one, Jubilee has achieved a lot. Look at the infrastructural expansion that we are seeing. Look at the state of security and where we were at that particular time. Look at the diplomatic gains that we have made. Kenya has suddenly developed into a diplomatic hub. A diplomatic hub. And this will come with foreign direct investment. This will come with international recognition. And this has even informed why Kenya was uniquely picked to join United Nations Security Council. This is why Kenya right now is an avenue for mediating some of these regional conflicts. And ultimately, you will see the benefits out of these political decisions that empower, that also put Kenya as a premier nation in the global world or as a member of the civilized world. And this is why really we must appreciate where we were, where we are, and whoever will come will pick from where President Uhuru Kenyatta will be living actually. And therefore that will not be a mean achievement. And therefore it's wrong also to assume that whatever President Uhuru stands for has done will go away with him or will end with him. The nation of the Republic of Kenya will continue to flourish regardless of who becomes the president. And this is one thing that everybody must act. Otherwise, we will not have...
I want us to hear from Kazuzu here because, yes, you say that whoever comes after President Uhuru Kenyatta will inherit what he'll have done moving forward. But what do you make of... We had invited one Kimani Ichung'wah, Member of Parliament for Kikuyu, still expecting him. As soon as he's able to join us, we'll be bringing him on board to share his thoughts, and especially the plan with the bottom-up economic approach. But when you look at all this, because you've heard from Raila Odinga saying that we need to focus on the rural economy, rural infrastructure to spark growth from there. You listen to Musalia Mudavadi, he says that he's focusing on economic recovery and reduction of the public debt. There are real challenges that Kenyans are facing. Do you see any solution from all these propositions?
Let me start by commenting on what the DP was quoting in the Book of Psalms. The person who wrote the Book of Psalms was David. And if you look at Israel, it was a monarch. So there was no hustler. Once David became president, his son became president, his son became king, the next came king, became king. There was no other person who came from. Yeah, so it might be very tricky for him when it comes to dynasty hustler, because Israel was a dynasty. Yeah, from David gave to Solomon, Solomon to his children, his brother, like that, to the extent that even if a child was 8 years old, in a country where you might have had 60-year-old people, it was a dynasty. Yeah, so he might be very careful when he quotes scripture out of context. Secondly, we are debating models, and for me, people say that it's one step in the right direction. I'm thinking that is political conmanship, or political rhetoric, but economic conmanship. Why? When you go to a hospital, yeah, they can, this thing of debating economic models is like debating whether will we give you a tablet or will we give you antibiotics through IV. So we're debating tablet or IV. But my problem is, you are debating a vehicle to carry a solution to a problem. And the problem that we have is, we are debating a vehicle of a solution that we've not come up with because we've not diagnosed the problem. So right now we are saying, do we do tablet, do we do IV? But what is the problem you're trying to treat? You see, and we've made the debate like it's an economic debate, but we are debating a model. A model is only a vehicle that carries a solution. And the question is, what I'm not hearing from the politicians, maybe at least Raila's tweets have been trying to mention specific. What I've actually not heard from bottom up is, what specific solution to what specific problem are they trying to carry with the bottom up economic model? Yeah, because as Dr. has said, you have to first understand the context of what we are in. Yeah. Because if you then do not understand the problem, the danger is that you will treat symptoms and not the problem. If someone goes to the hospital with a headache and you give them Panadol, you've helped with the headache, but you don't know what is causing the headache. The guy might die of a blood clot 10 minutes later because you've treated a symptom. Let me just give you a bit of statistics. I like data, but data doesn't lie. And this data is from Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, so I've not cooked it up. Population is 47 million. Yeah, 70% of that stays in the rural areas. 70% of the population stays in rural areas, and we know that the majority of what happens in the rural areas is agriculture or livestock or something of that nature. Yeah, of the 47 million Kenyans, 28.3 million are below the age of 24. Yeah, 28.3 million Kenyans are below the age of 24. And only 14.1 million are between the age of 25 to 29, which would be called the productive age. Only 14 million. Yeah. 7 million of those who are aged above 3 million have never gone to school. 7.7 have never finished school. So that's already 15 million people that have either not gone to school or have never finished school. 17.7 million people are still in school. Yeah, 17.7 are still in school. Of that 17.7, 10 million are in primary, 3.4 are in secondary. Then you have 500,000 in TVETs and 470 in university, whatever. 21 million Kenyans' highest education is either pre-primary or primary. 21 million of the 47. Highest education is pre-primary or primary. 9 million's highest education is secondary school. So 30 million of the 47, the highest education is secondary, completely secondary school. Yeah. Of the 25 million who are aged above 18, 10.8 or 43% of them have never finished school or have never gone to school. That's 10.8 of the productive age. Then there are around 7-8 million SMEs in the country. 1.5 registered, 5.86 unregistered. Of the ones which are unregistered, if you look at the business owners, 31% of the unlicensed, of the 5.8 million, the owners have never gone to school, or the highest education is primary. 23%, the highest is primary or secondary. So already you're already at 60-something, 70% of the skill set. So what does that say? Kenya is a very thin labor force, only 29%. And that labor force has serious skill gaps. Yeah? Because 18 and above, 43% of them have never went to school or did not finish school. And the majority of those who finish school, the highest level of education is primary. What does that data say? It also says that you have 28.3 million people who are below the age of 24. That means in the next 5-10 years, these people are going to come to the job market. So if you think we have a problem of unemployment now, give it another 5-10 years, and you see the problem of unemployment that will actually come when these people are moving away from school. So what am I trying to show with this? As people talk about bottom-up, trickle-down, abracadabra, whatever you want to call it, is Kenya has two major problems. It has an income and rural poverty problem. Income and rural poverty problem. And secondly, Kenya has an upward mobility problem. Either it's very low or it's stagnant. What do I mean by upward mobility? That if you are here, generally you are supposed to be moving up the ladder. And the problem in Kenya is that that is very slow. To just debunk a bit of bottom-up, when bottom-up say that no, we will invest in SMEs, we will invest in cottage industries, we will do this to help the people at the bottom to get jobs, because everyone is trying to get everyone a job. It does not solve the problem that we have of income and rural poverty. Why do we have an income poverty in Kenya? Dr. has said factors of production: land, capital, labor. If you want to carry on, then you can say innovation, entrepreneurship. Yeah? All these factors of production earn a different income or a different return or interest. Land, there is rent, capital gains. Capital, you get dividends, interest, and capital gains. Labor earns one thing, which is a wage or salary. And if you look at the history of Kenya for the last 10 years, salary growth has been negative. Actually, if you look from 2008 until now, wage growth has been negative 1.5%. Yeah? So even if you get all these people jobs and they start working, yeah, they are not going to come out of poverty because their income is not increasing. That's number one. Number two, putting money into cottage industries and all these other things that the bottom-up guys are talking about, in the name of we are going to invest in the people at the bottom, you are still giving people who have capital money to be able to create jobs to employ these people. So what happens? The rich will continue getting richer and the poor will continue getting poorer, whether bottom-up or trickle-down. What then will I advise? If we are going to discuss one, any politician who cannot mention to you these two problems, income poverty, rural poverty, and upward mobility, then they are just making noise, so to speak. They're literally just making noise. They're letting you discuss a vehicle to go to a destination which they have not decided. What will I then suggest? As I said, 47 million people in the country, 70% in the rural areas who practice agriculture. It does not take rocket science to know that the place of the greatest impact will be where 70% of the population will be. But David says you'll cut taxes. Yeah? There are only 2 million people that pay taxes. Yeah? So which taxes are you cutting? Yeah? Because if you cut taxes, like we saw during COVID, we said, oh, we reduced PYE, we've reduced corporate tax, we've done that. What we've just done is only affected 2 million of a population of 47 million. Why? Because 70% of the population is in rural areas, in agriculture, and close to 80 and 90% of the people that are employed in the informal sector who don't pay tax. So if anyone has an economic model that does not talk about indirect taxes, one, they're insincere about helping people, and two, they're insincere about generating revenue. You hear all of them saying that we need to expand the tax base. We need to widen the tax bracket so that everyone pays taxes. If I don't have a job, there's no way widening me to pay taxes. But the only tax that I'm able to pay is I need to buy bread. Yeah. So if anyone does not talk of indirect taxes in terms of widening the tax bracket, right, they are not discussing anything. If anyone does not talk about what they are going to invest in the agricultural sector, how do we increase the income? Because we want to bridge income poverty. Yeah, that's how you get upward mobility of people. When people start earning more for the resource they have, right, and the majority of Kenyans have labor. Yeah, so how do we grow income for the people in the agricultural sector? Value addition. creating markets for them. Our exports have been stagnant for the last 10, 12 years at $6.1 billion. And like Ndavade spoke about debt, I would like to hear how he's going to bring down the debt. Because the truth of the matter, Kenya cannot pay its external debt without borrowing. That's the truth of the matter. Kenya cannot pay its external debt without borrowing. Why? Our imports are 3 times our exports. That means we are importing more, spending more dollars than the dollars that we earn, that we need to. We can't print dollars to pay our debt. That's number one. So if we are going to borrow, and we don't put that borrowing into the export-oriented businesses, then we're shooting ourselves in the foot. Because then we are going to be stuck in this borrowing, especially for external debt. Even if you put this funny magical number called diaspora remittances, that always keeps on going up like this. And if you look at the graph, it always goes up when we are about to get into problems. All of a sudden, the people in the diaspora become philanthropic and say, let's send more money to Kenya. And it's a very tricky, dangerous policy position, so to speak.
Does it actually happen, or it's just...
whenever a government wants to hide something, you will see the 2 figures that will grow are figures you can't verify. They will create jobs in the informal sector because you have no way of verifying that. Diaspora numbers will go up, remittances, because you also have no way of verifying that. So whenever I want to see that the government is in a bit of a shaky, trouble position, look at the statistics that start going up, statistics that a common man cannot verify.
Okay. And Dr. Kenam, I mean, you come from a region that up until 2010, I don't know whether that has changed, would have been described as marginalized based on where state resources were being taken to. And we've had devolution for the past 9 years. Have you seen any change, and especially on the impact on people's lives at a time that, like you said, you come from an area where biggest investment would be in livestock? What have you seen working over those 10 years that you'd say that a politician coming to promise that I want to get into the high office would actually make sense to them with practical results expected?
Yeah, I think first we must accept that there is no one known economic model that can be universally applied. Different situations demand creativity in the kind of economic model that should be applied. That is why in the Kenya context, Kenya basically is an agricultural country. Our economy is a agricultural-based economy. Though right now, with the serious diversification that is going on, tourism and other emerging sectors of the economy, actually, like the diaspora, are really increasingly becoming very, very, very important. Before I forget, actually, why the diaspora money is so important is because of this thing called the hot capital, the hot money. Because somebody outside there has accumulated enough, liquid capital. And whenever there is realized there's a bit of cash crunch, and then there's an attempt by the government to go to the money market to borrow, the incentive. So it's like you only need to agree with your bank, bring back a bit of your hard-earned foreign currency in whichever form, and through that is the economy, the way the economy is sustained. And it's not actually criminal. It's not a bad thing. It's something that is allowed universally. That's why it goes through all the known financial market. Having said this, this country has gone through a lot of transformation. We may not have achieved actually what ideally we ought to have achieved, because if we go back to our history, in 1968 Kenya was a donor nation, and actually the GDP of the Republic of Kenya was at par with one of South Korea at that particular time. Other countries like today, which are used as best economic models, like Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia, were all struggling. But the kind of economic model that they used is what is actually sparked development and what has made them actually reach where they have reached right now. The GDP of South Korea is almost now 50 times that of Kenya. In 1968, our GDP was almost the same. It's a known fact that South Korea actually does not produce, does not have any known natural resource. I think what they do is the kind of metal scrap that you see here in Kenya ends up in South Korea. What has informed that particular takeoff is because of predictable, consistent economic policies. Predictable, consistent economic policies that comes with stability and tranquility. That is why in the Kenya context today, right now, what we need to move away from is this cycle of tribally oriented, tribally centered, tribally placed political parties that seek power in the name of regions at the exclusion of other groups. And by the time they are there, there's suspicion. And the whole thing is laden with tribalism, regionalism, and you know, puts aside professionalism. And even those at the helm perpetuate that particular philosophy. That is why in the context of the people of Northern Kenya, we say we got our independence in August 2010. And this is historical. In fact, we say we got our internal rule in 1991 at the advent of multipartyism. Because before 1991, basically Northern Kenya was a closed zone. The kind of laws that were applicable in that particular part were all unconstitutional. We have had the Indemnity Act, the District Contagious Act, the Administrative. All these laws were tailor-made for the people of Northern Kenya for historical reasons. So at the advent of multipartyism, 1991, those laws were actually abolished. And for the first time, we were, the people of Northern Kenya could easily, you know, classify themselves as part of the national.
But in terms of...
I'm coming to this. That was the political gains. But from August 2010, this constitution, you remember, I was in parliament at that particular time. There were two protagonists, there were two particular groups. One group wanted pure presidential system. The other group wanted a pure parliamentary system. The Westerners, from the Western side, wanted a pure parliamentary system. The central part wanted a pure presidential system. And both actually were being promoted by using particular economic models. Of course, camouflaged as a political policy, you know, policies. So what the third group emerged. The third group were the proponents actually of devolution. And I was in that team. And we say, look, you want this for power, you can have it. We don't mind whoever becomes the president, whoever becomes the prime minister. But under all this, we must have particular policies that will be tailor-made for the economic improvement of the people of the marginalized regions. And that's why the issue of devolution actually came in. And today, proudly, I wouldn't say I have a problem with the way devolution has been managed. The concept is excellent. Devolving resources is also excellent. But because of corruption, because of inefficiencies, because of lack of preparedness in the way the whole program actually was devolved, we have challenges. And I believe the policy is good in due course.
Right.
Devolution will be the best policy this country has ever adopted. So today, for the first time, we have tarmac in Mandera. We have tarmac in Wajir. We have tarmac in Garissa. For the first time, certain facilities that we used to say this is a phenomenon only found in down Kenya. And you know, when we were there, when we were young, we'll say we are going to down Kenya. That has been demystified. People no longer talk about going to down Kenya. Like at that particular, when we were in school, if you ask a primary going child to define a tarmac, they will tell you it's a black substance found in down Kenya. If you ask what is down Kenya or where is down Kenya, they will tell you it's the upper part of Kenya. That definition is normal. It has been demystified. Now we are all part of the Republic of Kenya. And therefore, devolution, the best gift, but there's need to improve on how it is managed so that there is improvement, so that there is efficiency and also more feasibility in terms of how the programs are implemented.
And I have to admit that the first time I went to Mandera and heard of down Kenya, I was wondering, where is that? But later on you understand the dynamics. But Kazutu, so as you reflect on this and knowing that the country is now managed through two levels of governance, that is national government and devolved government, what are your thoughts as you reflect on the economic poverty and the rural poverty? What are your reflections on how well you've done, and do you think we are fixing the problem through this approach?
Devolution is a good idea. The only problem, I think Dr. has alluded to it, it was done for political expediency with little economic thought put into it. Why do I say that? We have devolved the payroll, but not the ability to generate revenue. That's why right now, all the self-revenue generated by counties is around 38 billion. Divided by 47, that means each county cannot even generate $1 billion. How sustainable is that?
That's
Yeah. So what we did, we devolved the payroll because we did it for political expediency without actually putting economic thought into it. How is this going to work? Is Mandera a county by itself sustainable, or do we need to combine it with 2-3 other counties there and form a super county? Because if I'm going to do business in a county, specifically in that county, I'm looking at what is the purchasing power, what is the number of people that are there that I can sell my product to. So you go to a county which has 300,000 people. Dagarot even has more people than some counties. You go there and think, okay, if I'm to set up a business here, who am I actually providing this service to? Yeah? Do they have purchasing power? So I like what some governors are doing, trying to create now regional groupings of counties.
Blocks.
That kind of... It's also a noble idea, but really there's nothing that stops someone from Mandera to selling in Turkana. So even if they join together, what's really the benefit of them joining together? It's not like there are any taxes that are charged when you are moving from Mandera to Turkana that you're saying, if we join, now we remove import tax or export tax because we are one federation. So I'm still trying to also just get to understand what's the point of this Western economic bloc, you know. So until we think of devolution from an economic perspective, then we start seeing the fruits. Why? I'll give you an example. We created the Nairobi Expressway, or we are creating the Nairobi Expressway because we want to decongest Nairobi. And I say, but we are treating a symptom. Because congestion of Nairobi is because the rural economy has been killed, everyone is migrating to Nairobi. If devolution works in the next 3-4 years, this expressway will be a ghost expressway.
Correct.
Because no one will want to be coming to Nairobi. So if we think of devolution from an economic perspective, we are saying, let's create jobs where people are. If I am born in Kakamega, I should have no desire whatsoever to migrate to Nairobi. You know? I can be born in Kakamega, raised in Kakamega, work in Kakamega, and never leave Kakamega and actually even end up dying in Kakamega. That's what devolution is supposed to achieve. If we think of devolution from an economic perspective, you realize then we don't need Volvo to set up a plant in Nairobi, but we should be thinking of Ferguson setting up a tractor assembly plant in the Rift Valley. Because one, we can consume the tractors. Two, you are creating jobs for the people in the Rift Valley for a product that can be consumed in the country and in the region. Because generally the region is also very agricultural. When you go to the coast and you're saying, okay, all these coconuts and all this good weather that we have, how do we add value to this? Now you start thinking of the value chain of the coconut. In thinking of the value chain of the coconut, one, you've boosted the farmer who's farming the coconuts. You've created employment to the guys who are going to process the coconut. And how economics works, as much as people are saying that, oh, we want to give wheelbarrows to the Mkokoteni guy. You know, if you give a wheelbarrow to Mkokoteni guy, he's not going to employ someone else. You've just empowered him alone. Yeah. If you go give something to a Mama Mboga, saying now he can, I saw something that, no, if they have a wheelbarrow, that means they can have more stock and sell more things. But they're selling to who? Yeah? What you've done is just help them alone. So whenever you're making an investment, you're looking to make an investment where you have the greatest impact, because our resources are very few. So if I invest in an SME, yeah, that maybe is doing value addition for maize, apart from just getting maize and getting mealie meal from it, maybe they're doing some value addition for maize or even for leather. They employ 200 people. Yeah? That Mama Mboga is now 200 new clients. Yeah? They're in a better position than when you've given them a wheelbarrow. Because you put money where there's the greatest impact. This person has employed 200 new people. Mama Mboga has 200 new clients.
Right. From
where she only had two clients. So if we think of devolution from an economic perspective, it is actually a good vehicle. I think the best vehicle than bottoms up or trickle down or whatever.
Bottom up.
Bottom up. Yeah, bottom up than trickle down, to actually help us, one, sort out our income poverty and our rural poverty. And people normally say, but agriculture is backward, we need to move to manufacturing and stuff like that. The top 7 food importers in the world in the year 2020 or 2019, between those 2 years, spent $653 billion importing food.
Yeah.
You have a very good climate, very good soil, very good weather. Even if you are just to take 10% of this 653 billion global food demand, you have increased your exports from 6 billion to 65 billion. So as Doctor has said, if we have targeted, consistent economic policy, not scattergun economic policy, that one day here you are saying Volvo, the other day you are saying let's build a railway, the other day you are saying now you want to do bottom up, the other day someone says I want to cut taxes. That is scatter. Yeah. If we just take the simple fact that 70% of your population is in the rural area performing agriculture.
And Katsutsu, the question is...
Let me just give you an example. Because I know Dr. is going to come back with a...
No, we need to take a short break. That's,
yes.
That's what I'm interjecting.
5 years, look at the budget from since Jubilee came in until now, and look at the percentage that goes to agriculture. Then you'll know how serious our politicians take the agricultural sector, unfortunately, where 70% of your population is in. You are not going to have any upward mobility or reduce poverty if you ignore that sector.
Okay. Oh, all right. And I want us to take a break again. We had invited Kimani Ichung'wah, the Member of Parliament for Kikuyu constituency. He's one of the champions for bottom-up economic approach. He's not sure, but the show continues. We take a short break. When we come back, we continue the conversation. You can text in your views to 2422 or tweet us at Citizen TV Kenya at Sam Gituku. The hashtag to use is the break. Back shortly.